So TNA Impact was a delayed show from Louisville, Kentucky. No, it was not live. Destination X. And the show started off with Bully Ray coming to the ring down the regular entrance. Bully Ray gets on the mic and says that all week he has been hearing people talk about Chris Sabin through social media and wrestling media outlets. He says that Sabin doesn't have a chance of beating him and that instead of planning a parade for Sabin, the fans should plan a funeral. Bully Ray says it's a perfect night for him to beat Sabin and for Aces and Eights to destroy the Main Event Mafia. And that was the end of the segment as far as anything relevant, because from that point the rhetoric moves to the area of nonsense that continues to pull Bully Ray down creatively. So, after that, we see Kurt Angle on the big screen, and he is immediately joined by the other members of the Main Event Mafia. Angle says that the Main Event Mafia is here to battle Aces and Eights. Angle says that Bully Ray will lose the title to Chris Sabin and he will be powerless to stop that. Sting then says that they will find out if brotherhood is stronger than family. Now it's interesting to look at the symbolism with this particular scene. Quentin Jackson is not standing alongside Sting, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, and Magnus. He is standing, pacing behind them. Also, Quentin is the only one not wearing a suit. So it further shows how forced this whole situation is and why it continues to make zero sense. So we see Robert Roode backstage, and Roode is asked if Destination X brings up any bad memories. He says, a fluke. Roode acknowledges that he has 0 points in the Bound for Glory series, but that eventually he will become world champion again. So then we have our first match, a Bound for Glory series match, Robert Roode versus Austin Aries. Really good match. And you don't ever see anything less with these two. The match ends with Roode executing a crossface on Aries. Aries is able to extend his body back for a pin attempt, but then Roode reverses that for a pin attempt. Aries kicks out. Roode attempts a backslide pin, but Aries kicks out again and DDTs Roode. Aries charges Roode from one ring corner to the opposite corner, attempting his flying drop kick, but Roode gets his legs up in the air and knocks Aries back down to the mat. Roode comes off the ropes with a spear that doesn't nail Aries fully. Aries attempts the brainbuster, but Roode gets loose and clotheslines him. He goes for the pin, but doesn't get it. Roode attempts a fisherman suplex on Aries, but Aries counters with a discus forearm. Aries goes for the brainbuster again, but Roode counters by lifting Aries on his shoulders. Aries elbows Roode in the head, and finally delivers the brainbuster and gets the pin. The winner of the match, Austin Aries, he picks up 7 points for a total of 14 points. Roode still has 0 points. So Roode is outside the ring and he is looking at Mike Tenay and Jeremy Borash as they are saying that he is 0 for 4 in the Bound for Glory series. And then Roode grabs a video monitor and throws it to the floor. And he stomps on it and he smashes it again. And then he starts tossing chairs into the ring, almost into the ring. And I think he also threw a water bottle. And this was good to see from Roode. I mean, he's 0 for 4. with 0 points. He should be frustrated, and this was an effective way for Rude to show that. So we see Hernandez and Homicide backstage. LAX reunion. And Homicide briefly mentions his X Division match coming up, and then Chavo Guerrero appears. He greets Homicide, and Homicide leaves. Chavo says that he'll win the X Division title, and Hernandez will win the Bound for Glory series, so that at next year's Destination X, it'll be him against Hernandez for the World Heavyweight title. Yeah, in some other universe, maybe. So we see Aces Nate's backstage, and Mr. Anderson tells Mike Knox that his vote against Doc last week caused him to turn in his colors and quit the group. Mr. Anderson says that Bully Ray has a big night and asks every member if he knows what he is doing. They all know what to do, and then they leave. So obviously this is the kayfabe cover for Doc being released by the company, and so much for my wanting to see Doc and Mike Knox go for the belts. So then we have the first of 3 X Division qualifying matches, in which the winner of each qualifying match will move on to the Ultimate X match next week, in which the winner will be the new X Division champion. So the first match has Homicide versus Petey Williams versus Sanjay Dutt. Decent match. Sanjay Dutt wins with the moonsault double foot stomp on Homicide. So Sanjay Dutt becomes the first qualifier for the Ultimate X match next week. So then we have the second X Division qualifying match. It's Chavo Guerrero versus Kenny King versus TJ Perkins, Suicide, Manic. And the fact that Chavo and Kenny King didn't even have their ring entrances pretty much told you who was winning this match. It was an okay match. Manic wins by delivering his double knee backbuster on Kenny King. So Manic moves on to the Ultimate X match next week. And I don't know what's going on backstage as far as Kenny King goes, but the way he's being pissed on is ridiculous. So we see the Main Event Mafia through the blinds backstage. Sting says that tonight is the reason the Main Event Mafia was assembled, to destroy Aces and Eights and to take care of Bully Ray. And then Kurt Angle wants to know if everyone is ready to start part 1 of the mission. And then Quentin Jackson says he's ready to knock somebody out. And then they leave the room. So then we see Hogan and Chris Sabin backstage. And Hogan tells Sabin that everyone knows what he has been through and that this is his moment. And Hogan tells Sabin to make sure that everyone remembers him and to win the title for TNA. And then Sabin shakes Hogan's hand and thanks Hogan. So it's just like Hogan to try to move in on somebody's shine and make himself a part of it. Typical. So the Main Event Mafia come to the ring. Sting gets on the mic and says that they gave Aces and Eights a warning and that they were going to bring the fight to them. He says the Main Event Mafia is custom made for this night because they're looking for Aces and Eights. And then Kurt Angle gets on the mic wearing sunglasses that only he could wear. Take off the shades, Kurt. There you go. Angle says that this fight will be brutal and vicious, and that because of the chaos that Aces Nates has caused, the Main Event Mafia is coming after them. He says that they are the greatest collection of champions, fighters, and wrestlers ever put together, and they are going to prove it. Magnus grabs the mic and says that everyone is ready, and he tells Aces Nates to come down to the ring and face them. But then Aces Nates appears on the big screen, and Mr. Anderson says that they're not coming to the ring. He wants the Main Event Mafia to come backstage and face them. So then Samoa Joe is on the mic and says that the Main Event Mafia is thirsty. And he asks Quentin Jackson if he's thirsty. And Jackson, knowing that he will never be getting the mic, makes the most of his, quote, "You know I'm thirsty," unquote, line. Joe says that the Main Event Mafia is going to drink their beers and beat them down. So then the Main Event Mafia heads toward backstage. They all see Mr. Anderson, and as they rush toward him, he slips through a doorway. And as the Main Event Mafia go through the doorway into what looks like a maintenance closet, they are ambushed by Aces Nates. And then Bully Ray pulls out Kurt Angle and throws him into the wall, and then he throws Angle into the back of a pickup truck. And then as Devon locks the door of the maintenance closet with everybody else in there, the truck takes off. Oh, man. So then we have the third X Division qualifying match. Rubix versus Rockstar Spud versus Greg Marichulo. Decent match. Told a little bit more of a story as far as Rockstar Spud was concerned. However, Marichulo wins with a double leg cradle kneeling pile driver on Rockstar Spud. Greg Marichulo needs a new name, particularly if TNA puts the X Division title on him. So the Ultimate X match is set for next week. Sanjay Dutt versus Manic versus Greg Marichulo. The winner will become the new X Division champion. And by the way, the new X Division championship belt sucks. So we see Bully Ray backstage through a slit in the door. And he is talking to the person driving the truck with Kurt Angle in the back. Bully Ray tells the person to take Angle to a specific location, and also tells him that before he leaves, he should make Angle an offer that he won't refuse. Now, a lot of people have speculated that since Taz was not at the commentators table, that maybe Taz was the one driving the truck. Don't know, really don't care. So we see Mickie James coming to the ring as Impact goes to a commercial break. So we come back from the commercial break, and we see a black pickup truck pull up, and Kurt Angle gets out. He's holding his head as he makes his way back inside the arena. So, after hearing Bully Ray tell someone to take Angle to location A, Angle all of a sudden is back at the arena. Here was the mistake that Aces Nates made. They abducted the wrong person. Let's go back to February 28th. That edition of Impact. When Kurt Angle invaded Aces Nate's hangout, and he unmasked the vice president, and then the other members of Aces Nate's jumped on Angle and beat the crap out of him, and then the following week, somehow, Angle showed up back at the Impact Zone, obviously having overpowered the entire group to make it back. Now, in this case, Angle is able to make it back to the arena after being thrown in the back of a truck. Light bulb, Aces Nates. Maybe you should have bound and gagged Angle first. But I have to remember that this is TNA logic. Angle could have been thrown in an oil barrel that was riveted shut, placed in the back of a truck, and driven off and buried 6 feet underground, and Angle still would have showed up in that truck at that time. Now here is the clue for those of you who still doubt that Impact wasn't live. When Kurt Angle returned to the arena, did you notice that it was still daylight outside? And I believe it was past 10 p.m. at that point. So if the show was live, wouldn't it have been dark outside? So, once again, TNA Impact was a delayed show in Louisville, Kentucky. So Mickie James is in the ring, and she says that there was something that happened last week that raised the bar for women's wrestling across the world. So she tells production to show some video footage on the big screen. And obviously everyone's thinking that it's going to be highlights of the ladder match between Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell. But instead, we see Mickie James in concert. And we see Mickie James participating in a parade. Mickie calls the video and herself amazing. And just as Mickie is about to complete the thought of this being what she is all about, Gail Kim comes to the ring and says that Mickie is delusional. Gail says that people weren't talking about Mickey's concert. They were talking about the ladder match between her and Taryn Terrell. Gail says her package will be perfect when she wins the women's championship. And then Mickie says she has a clause in her contract that says that she needs enough space and oxygen to compete at an optimum performance. And that Gail is invading both. And then Mickie says that the ladder match was a 2.5 at best. But all the media outlets gave her concert performance 5 stars. So Mickie uses her right hand as a visual and counts to 5. And takes a swing at Gail. Gail ducks and nails Mickie with an open hand right. Then we proceed to see the proverbial catfight take place before the refs come down to break it up and separate them. It was a decent segment that would have worked better with more tension between Mickie and Gail. The playful sarcasm that Mickie displays bounces off well with a face, but with a heel, that sarcasm should be mixed with tension so that it gives off a separate dynamic. I don't like the direction that TNA seems to be taking with Gail Kim. If TNA has the intention of turning Gail face, that would be a mistake. You don't take the one heel in the women's division who has been primarily responsible for putting over the faces and make her a face. You don't. So Chris Sabin is backstage, and Austin Aries approaches him and tells him that he doesn't want to diminish what Sabin has done in TNA for the last 10 years or diminish his victory over Aries for the X Division Championship. Aries tells Sabin that it's because of him that Sabin is in the position that he's in. Not because of Option C, but by taking him to a level that he may not have been capable of reaching. Aries basically calls himself the measuring stick for the other wrestlers in TNA. And he says that since he has beaten Bully Ray, Sabin has to do the same since Sabin has beaten him. And then Aries tells Sabin that he hopes Sabin wins, and then Aries leaves. Now, I like this segment a lot because it shows how compelling Austin Aries can be when he is allowed to show a stern, serious side instead of having contrived comedy forced on him. And it also provided a very interesting angle as to whether we could see another match between Sabin and Aries in the future. So we see AJ Styles backstage. And Styles says that the X Division reminds him of himself. It's an area that he has already covered, making it what it is today. And he talks about meeting Jeff Hardy next week on Impact. He says Hardy is a great wrestler, a fan favorite, a hero. And Styles says that TNA is no place for heroes and that he is coming to get his points. So then we have the main event. Bully Ray defending his title against Chris Sabin. This was a good match, particularly because of the approach that was taken. A clear-cut psychological slant. Bully Ray worked on the knee of Chris Sabin for most of the match. And of course, Sabin's knees being the focus of his 2 years of inactivity as well as his rehabilitation. Now, during the match, Aces and Eights comes out. But then the Main Event Mafia come out. Okay, so the transition goes from Main Event Mafia and Aces and Eights locked in a maintenance closet to Angle returning in the truck that abducted him, to both factions just walking out to ringside freely without any visual explanation as to how this situation was resolved. When this idea was being put together at the creative meetings, didn't anyone there not notice the cheese that was oozing from the sides of this? So, Aces and Eights and Main Event Mafia are at ringside. The match ends with Sabin coming off the top rope with a drop kick that nails Bully Ray, causing Bully Ray to crash into the referee, knocking him down. Sabin drapes his arm over Bully Ray for the pin, but the ref is down and cannot make the count. Mr. Anderson hands Bully Ray the hammer, and then a brawl starts between Aces and Eights and the Main Event Mafia, which ends up backstage. Back in the ring, Bully Ray has the hammer held up to strike Sabin, but Sabin kicks him. Bully Ray drops the hammer, and Sabin picks it up. Bully Ray kicks Sabin in the midsection and picks Sabin up on his shoulders, but Sabin hits him in the head with the hammer. Bully Ray falls. Sabin pins Bully Ray 4-3. Chris Sabin is the new World Heavyweight Champion. Show ends. It's surprising that Chris Sabin is a new world champion, and I don't have an issue with him being champion. I get it. The culmination of being out of wrestling for 2 years, combined with the rigorous rehab that he went through, is Sabin becoming the world champion. However, the victory felt cheap. If TNA is going to have Sabin stress the importance of hard work and dedication and the refusal to give up, they should have found a more suitable way for him to win. Nothing spectacular, but a way subtle enough to satisfy his comeback and justify it. Lowering Sabin to Bully Ray's level does not accomplish that. I'm TazMart 2002, and that was my TNA Impact analysis for July 18th, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, you can leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions about TNA or wrestling in general that you would like to ask me, or you have any other comments, you can contact me on Twitter, TazMark 2002, TazMark 2002. And if you exceed the 140, get at me with an email, TazMark2002@gmail.com. I thought it was a solid show. Solid show. What happens now? Does Chris Sabin have a title reign of longer than a month or not? There's already information out about a rematch between Sabin and Bully Ray inside a steel cage. And the result of that match will likely determine what will happen at Bound for Glory. What if Sabin retains? Who should he face at Bound for Glory? Austin Aries. You would have the most detailed, complete storyline, plus the opportunity to follow up their great action from the July 4th Impact, and this time have an official one-on-one matchup. Sabin versus Aries at Bound for Glory should be intriguing enough to be considered. But as long as there is a charging elephant in TNA who makes everything revolve around him, walls will still get knocked down. Could Sabin versus Aries be a wall that is strong enough to stand? I'm TazMart 2002. Gone.